Okay, here we are. Be patient. It's coming. The unconscious denial. Aren't we all gone through that phase? Right, here we are. I've turned the volume on YouTube on silence. Welcome to my YouTube channel. And tonight we're going to talk about the unconscious denial. As usual, let's start with Gayatri Mantra 3 times. If you know the lyrics, please follow me. Let's start. Inhale. Om Bhurvubhuva Swaha
Tat
Tatsavitu Vareya Bhago Devasya Dhimahi Yo Yona Prachodaya Om Bhuva Swaha Tatsavitu Vareya Bhago Devasya Dhimahi Yo Yona Prachodaya Om Bhuva Swaha Tatsavitu Vareya Bhago Devasya Dhimahi Yona Prachodaya. One Om together. Inhale. Om. Welcome everyone. Perhaps, Sunyata, you might want to share with us what prompted you to discuss this topic, the unconscious denial.
Well, I like the way the words have changed. The unconscious denial, I don't think we framed it like that, but it makes it something quite different, doesn't it? The unconscious denial. Can it be a conscious denial, an unconscious denial? You can be in denial about the unconscious, perhaps. Into his word reference, the unconscious desire, denial. You want me to go right into it? Do you want me to go into it? When I came out of India, I
thought we could discuss the conscious denial.
Say again?
Do we consciously deny certain facts or truths, or are we innocent in this? Are we unconsciously denying certain things that we consciously don't know? I think that might be both. I think both situations might actually exist. What did you say?
How does the unconscious show itself in consciousness? That was always the question. You know, so that consciousness is fully illuminated. Where does unconsciousness reside? That's really the question. So there's a separation here. Just in contemplating this over the last hour or so, what it has me want to say is something like this. This is Jesus' word. I am in the world, but not of it. Right? So what's meant by that? So we can look at that structure first, carefully. Think about it. I am. Right? So we look at what this is. I am. Am is a reference to the first person singular. So am reverses back onto itself, and we look at the I, purely at the I am, nothing more. Not I am an artist, or I am a man, or I am whatever. I am doing this, I have done this, or this thing that follows. Or I am in Tuesday, or whatever occurs. It's one reverts back onto the numeral I. So in meditation, what we're doing is we're always reverting back on the numeral I. This is the point. So once we're established in this space, all well and good, but we all know that we get distracted by external things. In other words, I'm engaged in something, or my attention goes to something. There's no content in amness, just that it recognizes itself. But then the moment then we walk in the world, then all of a sudden we're engaged in relationship to things, people, activities. Now that appears to us, that occurs to our senses and occurs to our mind, this is where mind remains clear. In other words, we don't feel conflict from anything that's happened in the past or that's happened to us presently. There's no issue in the I amness. But the moment we come into suffering, then there's something to examine. There's something to examine. Some of these things might be directly obvious to us, that it exists in our conscious mind. But the periphery, mostly everything that we know isn't on the level of conscious mind, it's happening on the level of unconscious mind. So then when we come into any type of conflict or any type of conflict, indecision for where we might go forward in life, it's in the world that we're looking. And even that we see of ourselves is of the world, because there's no issue in I. I has no content of itself. It's numinal. We could go into sort of more the Hindi way and look at it from the variant of Purusha and Prakriti. So Purusha is the principal I consciousness in its own purity, unafflicted by anything. There's no issue here. We don't have an issue. As long as I am. It's only dealing with the nature of the world, Prakriti. Prakriti has to do with anything that can happen in experience, anything that can happen through perception, anything that can happen in mind. So where there's no conflict, where everything moves smoothly, we're fine. If we feel pleasure, we don't question it. If it sits easily with us, it's fine. But the moment we come into any type of conflict, then we have to deal with that. Some of these things might be very, very easy, and other things may not be. Going through major cleansing at the moment for myself, and it's been very, very radical, coming off pharmaceutical drugs. And I'll say this outright, it hasn't been very, very pleasant. But the interesting thing is what happens in that moment where you lose the ability to be purely focused on I. That's purity. That we talked about in the past, sahaja, is the elements, the nature of pure consciousness. And all of a sudden you're in a conflict where the body is rattled with pain, and the solutions out of it might look simple, like just to be able to relax, and the body won't because it's in agony. Where are we there in our meditation? Where does meditation go there? Now, it's what I've been noticing the last couple of weeks of going through this is when severe pain is one thing, it's quite easy to hold to eye focus in severe pain. But when the extended elements of it happen, when you're in extreme sleep deprivation and the like, and you have to wade through a vast amount of time in excruciating pain, where is the meditation? It's easy enough to sort of keep pleasant and well-mannered with others. Well, maybe, if it depends on where your meditation is. You can stay steady depending on the requirement. So bringing it back from a less dramatic position where we are in life, often if we're conflicted by something that's small in our life, and then someone asks of us more, we might lose our love. We might lose our clarity. These things are more issues. It's where we make it worse for ourselves. Now, in talking about this, bring it back to the subject, the unconscious denial. Well, I have to sort of say that in the past, mine has been an outright denial of the unconscious. And even in declaration, I really didn't believe that there was any unconscious left. Not at all. How do I look at this now? It's an interesting position when, for me, I'm speaking very, very personally, and please forgive me for this, but I'd like to be able to talk about it. In being in extreme pain and sleep deprivation, solutions have to be, when you're going through healing, you need all number of other supports that go way beyond the capacity of the self in the world. Is this unconscious? Well, it is if you don't know about it. Yeah. Do we know how to sort of ask for help when we need it? Is there something about the unconscious? We tend to sort of think about our aberrations in the unconsciousness, which makes me less than God. What in my unconscious makes me less than God? What couldn't I share with anyone? Perhaps, maybe that's a bit much. What couldn't I share with a loved one? What would I have remain hidden? These types of things where we find our differences in one another. I think I'm asking that question. Maybe I'll just throw it open for a while. Would anyone like to respond? I'm not really asking a question. Just speak from their own point of view.
I think, based on my observation, if we are experiencing a conflicting situation, a multi-conflict in our life, the waking state, we are merely in the surviving mode, that we're doing the best as what we know how we respond to the situation, the environment, it is based on what we know. And if we are responding to the conflicts, to the pain, to the suffering at the best of our capacity, then whether I unconsciously aware or not, it cannot be blamed. Because I can't see outside of what I know, therefore I cannot respond to the unknown.
Mhm.
And
So,
this occurred as it presented an opportunity to actually looking back at the self, expand the, the self-knowingness that we thought we knew it all, but we didn't.
yeah, well, that would be a pretty silly position to take, to think we know it all. Yeah, it's funny how anyone could get stuck there. I know enough about myself to do everything. Now, there's times where you need to look to help, whether it's in the immediate vicinity or even in prayer. There's times where we need an intervention. There's times where we need the outside. Very often in Advaita and non-duality, we become very self-contained, and this has its own beauty and it has its own order. But there's something in finding ourselves in a position where we need to be humble enough to be able to ask for help, to be able to speak in loving terms to one another, to be able to come from that simplicity, that purity. It's in the not knowing. It really is in the not knowing. Would we? Is God beyond us? Because in this present modern time, this is an odd idea. We don't. The idea of God has become sort of pushed into the idea of I. We can make the assumption that I am that, and God can only occur through me. But perhaps in the unconscious, one wouldn't allow God to occur. And that might show up in any form. It might show up in a person just wanting to help you for something and you being too proud to accept it. You see, it doesn't have to be sort of, the grand biblical telling or something, the light of God, but it might too.
I think the explanation to that, I would say, Anna Maria always say that everything has its divine time. Now, if God does not allow us to experience God, then there's something beyond this body-mind conditioned self, because we don't know. Therefore, we didn't choose to be unaware. It just happened.
Well, the beauty is in the awareness. Like when you look at it, it's the miracle is
How
consciousness. Consciousness is the miracle. Consciousness is the throne. And once you understand this, if you invert the eye on the eye,
yes, but when you that is when you're not in pain. When you
no, I
going
disagree. No,
through
I disagree.
excruciating pain, you have to
I
deal
disagree.
with that.
I disagree. The consciousness, you're always aware of that, but when you're in a dire situation, you have to walk the walk. This is, like there's time. There is a time to act. There is a time for karma yoga. There's time to go through the steps of whatever it is, to go through whatever we need to do to get it straight, and that makes us time bound. And some of these movements aren't altogether necessarily easy. We might have to sort of swallow something. We're going to have to do time, But consciousness is there, and we might not be able to find that very, very sublime state, but it's always there. Sahaja never, ever disappears. It doesn't matter what it is. In our awareness of it, we expect an outcome, that there will be no suffering. But this is foolish. There's going to be suffering, and there's going to be pain, there's going to be conflict, there's going to be things that confront us all the way through our lives. And are we open enough to be able to look at that deeply and to see if there are qualities which are beyond our understanding, where we need to have a better listening for one another, a deeper listening for one another, so that we might be able to penetrate that more thoroughly, or at least for ourselves and for others, in the compassion of all sentient beings. It has a purpose. Our suffering isn't empty.
But let's look at this. When you were in extreme pain, did you feel that life is a miracle?
I'm in extreme pain now, love. Life is a miracle.
You know, consciousness is there. It's
when you're in breathing pain, it's very.
Well, I'm not talking about now. I'm talking about those.
We're talking about it when the body is perspiring on a floor and you're wreathing in pain. No, this is pure survival. Because the body is going to dominate. How else can it be? We're not going to sit. But if is there a point where you sort of just sit still? There's a way through it. You have to work through it. When I was going in the early parts of meditation, before the first really deep sahaja samadhi, the muck of the unconsciousness come up. It went on for days, about 4 days, and I can only call it muck. I was talking to Patrick about it today. I could only talk about it as muck. It was black. It was dark. It was issuing up out of the self. It was coming up out of the. There was no description of its form, because there was nothing in its functionality that was needed in the moment, other than I settled down. Really, I wasn't in some dire situation. I just was in a place where I had no money and no food, and no way to be able to think through how I might be able to work this. And my solution in that moment was just to simply front all that fear that I possibly could, and use the situation to go into deep meditation. When the body is in real extreme conflict, not psychological conflict, it is just purely survival, and it's hands-on. For all the help that you can get, you have to accept it. Psychological pain is something very, very different again. Psychological pain, you can actually breathe through that. Breath is probably the best vehicle to do that. Any type of dynamic breathing that will get you through that to clarity. Any conflicted thought, heartache, anything psychological, you can approach that through breath work, because it's only of the mind, and it's not as solid. And I say that tentatively. It's not as solid as physical. But this throws us into another question about this, and something that I'm having to look at very, very carefully. With that I'm dealing with at the moment, it's in the repression of psychological elements that has me be here in that state of needing to be healed again. And so that raises the question, like, how does disease and illness come up? And I know this is all your department, Ekomananda, and your focus. So I can't say a lot about this. We could go into particulars, but if we keep general about it, rather than going into the particulars, when is it that we're in denial of a subconscious variant that arises to us, and exactly how do we deal with this? And this is an interesting question for me as a meditator and someone who's meditated quite, or come to a higher level of meditation, if you like. I say that in humility. How is it that you wouldn't not deal with those things? In other words, if it appears as a black goo in front of you, which is just causing you fear, and you simply breathe through it until it's gone, have you really dealt with it? Or do you have to pick it apart and dive into the middle of this thing like a psychoanalyst? Well, this isn't the approach of a meditator. The meditator will bypass it, and then it will appear to us as a softer form a little bit later down. It might not, but usually it does. It will come in its component, in a circumstance, in the moment, where you can deal with that directly. So, and then you might see that it links back to an experience that you had when you were a child, or whatever way it occurs for you, and you can deal with those things directly. I think the danger of where this is what I have to admit this, in becoming unwell out of India and then following a course of allopathic medicine, I inadvertently sort of found myself in a position of being reliant on quite strong painkillers. So, you know, like how do you qualify the meditation then, that this is there like that? And what is it that's remained hidden that I wouldn't have seen that earlier? There is no self here. This just simply happened. There is no denial here. It's only denial in the moment where there's an opportunity to get out of it, and you don't accept the opportunity to get out of it. It's when that's the most important thing. That's when the denial is critical. If you see an opportunity, see something right in front of you now that you need to clean up, and you deny it, then you might be causing yourself an issue. Whether those elements were there in me coming to a point where I accepted medicine to overcome my illness because it was the only way of dealing with the symptoms of it for me at that time. Anything which was in denial for me to come to that in the past is long buried. So those things will rise again. You can be sure of it, because nothing remains hidden. It will come out. Nothing remains hidden. It will come out. And that might mean that you might have to go through that right on your deathbed. And I don't want to sort of say too much here, but because I don't want to get into any speculative stuff, but there's a reason. There's a reason why I might sort of feel that even that will go beyond the physical death. You see, so you want to be able to deal with these things now, right now, as they arise. Not sit here sort of probing, looking for your crap. Not like that. It will just happen in natural life. You'll be having a conversation with a loved one, and then something stupid comes up in your attitude. It'll show up. It will show up. Or a friend will question you about something, says, well, why would you do that? And you can sort of cover it up, or you could say, well, I really don't know any other way to deal with it. That's denial. If you were to say, well, I don't want to deal with it, that's denial, beg pardon. So all this looks important to me at the moment because I'm sort of going through it. And it's
yes,
fine.
I'd say so I'd say if I don't know what to do with the situation, then consciously I am not denying it. But if that might be unconsciously denying because I did not know, I don't know. Clinically, in terms of healing, if this conversation has any healing purpose to our audience at all, come back to what you said. If I see an opportunity and denying that opportunity, to me that is a conscious denial. because I knew this is going to be good for me, but I decided to not to choose this opportunity, not to engage this opportunity to rise up higher. Because
Yes, well, that's
subconsciously
this
or
is
consciously, I'm telling myself everything is going to be okay without receiving.
yes, it's
And
and
without that, we lie that to the self, everything is going to be okay. Without me doing some inner work, we hope, we naively hope the universe will does itself. What the universe does itself, but in certain situations, we do continue the mistakes.
um, yes, very, very true. And it's also looking at the scaffolding of the way that we hold to denial. It's more about the nature of denial itself that needs to be looked at. By looking at how you're denying is really, really important. How am I denying? And why would I actually do that? And what's the payoff in that? What are we getting out of it? And this is I'm going to lose something if I do this. And but there it is. What are you thinking you're going to lose? What could you possibly lose? What could you possibly lose by being free of all the obstacles that cause you to be absolutely whole and healthy and well in this life? That was my question. And the circumstance was odd, in so much I was so gripped by the drug that every single time I went to leave it, I would get so chronically unwell that I wouldn't be able to function, and so I'd get sicker. So I was in the grip of something which had me. There had to be some type of intervention, and it's interesting to sort of look how something like this will play out. For me, and I'm going to say this because it's very, very interesting. I came through out of deep meditation last year, and it was around September of last year, and it occurred to me. I went, this is how the thought came up. I'd got word that a healer in Adelaide had died, and I thought that's very, very strange. And then I heard that another one was sick, and there was others who were showing up which didn't really appear to be so authentic. And I'm not in a position to really qualify that because that was virtually secondhand. So it's not really. But I was looking at this filter stuff, and I'm thinking to myself how the thought arose to me. I need to go to Adelaide and see what's going on. This is honestly my response. So, and when I look at this in hindsight, it's very, very interesting. So I'm in very, very deep meditation. Everything, as far as I can see, is going beautifully, but I'm just here in my cave. And so I go walking out into the world, come down to Adelaide with the idea of meeting beloved friends' spiritual group. So then in meeting with those people, all I was really doing was just seeing the level of purity in their awareness of consciousness. That's all that happened in that instant. Nothing else sort of showed up, and everything was really lovely. But inadvertently, what it did was it had me create a relationship with Ekomananda. So this is very interesting. And Ekomananda, being a healer, would come up and meditate with me. And so she asked me very, very strongly, why would you persist in this, given that you're such a deep meditator? And I'd just throw up my shoulders and say, well, I don't know. But the truth of it was that prior to coming down to Adelaide, I was trying to get over them, and I couldn't get past 4 days without being so unwell. I'd end up in a hospital. So this is the unconscious moving, if you can see. This is unconsciousness moving. It has its own form. It's not, we think that we're driving everything. We're not driving everything. It's happening. It's happening. And if we let it go, but in the right way, our discrimination is important. We don't make mistakes over and over again because we know we're going to hit a wall. But you have to make a movement. You might not know where that will lead. The things we tend to deal with are all just out of the conscious mind. The things we think we're dealing with in unconsciousness isn't about unconsciousness at all. We don't know how the parameters sort of think about how we directly go. We go to psychologists and things. It's, we have all these sort of methodologies, whatever methodologies that's appropriate. But when it comes to sort of actually creating the movement, that's the most important thing. Like, what is that? You go, well, there's an issue there. So there's a point where you go, okay, there's an issue there, and you put that out. So this has opened me up to a completely new set of parameters, and they have to do with God consciousness and the nature of prayer, the nature of God. All these things all of a sudden have occurred in a way that I haven't seen since I was a naive child, but imbued with a lifetime of experience of all these experiments in life and being a seeker and going through this and going through that and going through this and going through that. And there's an incredible beauty about all this, because there's a perfection in it, despite the lateness, of in my life of coming to these things here. It seems to have its perfection for why it might occur, and I can see it. And so there's a point of encouragement in going into this. What is it that we know we directly got hit in that first? Like how do you really root out that stuff that really stops you from being a beautiful, loving flow in your life? Life is just happening for you all the way. You don't need to be sick. You don't need to do all these things, but you might need to go on a journey to get beyond it. You might need to sort of, change just some small things about how you're considering life for the whole thing to open up. Because, that the sun is within you, but the sun is also outside. And we might look at that as being particular, but that's as much of the totality as what the totality is that shows up inside yourself in the highest samadhi. It's all one. And that unity must come about. That's, this is part of our seeking, it is going to be the higher self-realization. It is going to be the God consciousness. It goes beyond it. And you have to be in the company of that. You have to be able to open yourself up to that, and there's things that need to be tidied up along the way. And once there's an honest desire for it, then the circumstance will happen. That's what's happening. Once there's an honest desire for that, and this is where desire for the seeking, you could sort of say, well, there's nothing to desire, that you're creating. It's there's two ways of looking at it. Once you get up into the highest jhanas, that is, once you see that you're fundamentally conscious light, there's a refining energy which refracts all the way through the lower being. And the more that I go into this, the more that I see it. But this is a life work. But that's all right, because that's what life's for, is to give yourself over to that thing that is highest for yourself. That's the thing that we must do. So, this is where it has me. So, and so it's really interesting. It's fascinating. It's fascinating. Like all of a sudden I'm a child. I'm a child to this universe. I don't know anything. I mean, like straighten things up and paint a few pictures and sort of play guitar fast. But, like, no. I'm the virgin to this world. I'm a virgin to this universe, and you and I sit in humility of it, and I'm also embraced in it. I'm in its hands, and this is beautiful. Like I'm in its hands. I don't have to be the driver all the time. I can, it's just happening. It's amazing, like, and is it worth it? Getting past all the crap? Yeah, go for it. Come on. Get beyond this. Whatever these obstacles are, what are these obstacles? They help you not see your own bliss. Okay, we might have to burn a bit. You might need some help. All right. Well, if you know that, then you probably know where it is. Maybe you need to humble yourself and say, I need help. You know, that's also the unconscious. The unconscious will sort of say, well, actually, it's not the unconscious. I would say that's ego. Ego sort of sits and goes, well, why would I ask for help? You know, well, that could be a death wish. You know? It's all very, very interesting. Prakriti, the nature of things, you know, the particular, you know, the fruits of the world. You know, you just have to eat the right fruit, and then it's a joyous life, you know. Stop beating yourself up and making it harder than what it's needed to be. It's easy, you know. But get well, get clear, because if it's shown up like that in the past, imagine what it's like when that's away, or that is away. Yeah, clean it up. If you know it's a mistake, get rid of it. Get the help, get the support you need. You know, get into the company of people who've got light in their eyes and speak from their hearts. You know, get the support you need. Get on with it. Don't leave it to your 66th year or something. Get on with it. But anyway, all good.
I wanted to go back to the fear of losses. So when you say it is the concern of losing something, that is why or when we start to denial and look at the process, how we actually get to the point of denying. And I wanted to pass the opportunity to everybody and share some of your experiences. And I'll contemplate on if I am denying something that I don't know, I or wasn't aware. Yes, if Anna Maria, Nathan, if you have anything to share, please, by all means.
Yeah, we're all exposure.
I'm going through an interesting process at the moment where I've also entered a relationship, and I feel like it's a very conscious one.
Congratulations.
Yeah, we're still sorting through some life matters around it, but my denial has been that, and I know that it's probably my path to be a father, but I don't want to be. So,
right, yeah,
and I'm strongly denying what I know is probably coming. So
right. You know, could I say something a little bit on fathering just quickly?
Yeah.
You know, like my fathering was interrupted after about 13 years, and I also had a child in an early relationship who I never brought up. Right, so there's issues there. The opportunity of being with children is the most beautiful thing. You know, like it's not easy. You have to work hard. In hindsight, you know, like there's it's they're golden years, and you know, and if you're lucky, they'll remain good friends with you. Oops, sorry, I lost you. I don't know what I just did then. What's on that? Maybe that will get me back. Yeah. I think you would worry less about worry less. Everything will work out. You know, like it happens if it needs to happen. You know, like, and everything happens because it needs to happen. You know.
Yeah, I'm under some kind of false pretense that I have a choice.
Yeah.
So, and the older I'm getting, the more I'm realizing that actually there's not really much free will. That your fate is largely already decided. So there's not too much point worrying about it. But still, the ego likes to worry about these things.
Ego is so fractionated. You know, like it's so fractionated. Really, how ego is actually an inhibitor. Ego is an inhibitor. It actually doesn't allow you to be your full self. That's the amazing thing about it. That's the honest to God truth. You know, I mean, you can live it all through. You can make years and make a huge big story. It might even look fabulous to other people, but it won't to you. You see, because you're living it. You know, and the juiciness of sort of life free of sort of ego, it's not easy. You know, like it's exactly what do we mean by that? That's a lifetime of examination. What is an ego? You know, but and what if it's good? You know, like what do you need? What do you need to save? What do you need to keep healthy and well? Maybe that's probably the thing. What do you need to keep healthy and strong and vibrant and beautiful? You know, like all those upper qualities in the self, because that will take you more to the self. And where can that cut you off from beloved? Because you just want to take her there. You know, and small things are just, you know, like problems are just conversation. Children, well, you know, like, unless you're having a horde or something, well, you know, children have their own beauty. You know, they you know, there's no issue with children. It's only because we doubt ourselves. You know.
Can I say something from a female point of view?
Yes.
I don't think, Nathan, you are denying anything at all. And this is from a therapeutic point of view, from my observation through my clinical experiences. If we have a thought that I don't want to have a child, this is actually not coming from the mind. We think this is coming from mind. I actually choose to not have a child. But behind this, there is a plan, there is this fate. And do know that love will change this thought. Right? Like for the past 3.5 years, I very firmly to say or announce to the world or silently announce to the world, I don't want a relationship. I'm not going to have a relationship. But the universe has a different plan. We can only respond to what we know and the sensations that's being present in this body. But outside of this, we cannot respond to the unknown unless we are highly elevated. You live your life beyond this body, you embody the God, which you fully realize, then your journey is going to be absolutely different. You have a different mission. Your life is going to enlighten other people's life. Even that, to this day, I think this enlightenment has changed or evolved its own meaning. You can't reach the freedom by having child, having a family. Because what I thought was that I can be a master just by being on my own, being celibacy. I have to live in a austere lifestyle and to meditate non-stop, you know, day and night, to ascend to higher consciousness. What I realized is consciousness evolves itself. The body nowadays have better capacity to realize enlightenment.
And with, you know,
Because I didn't plan this. I thought I had a plan. I thought that voices.
I think also, but something needs to be sort of said about, when we say to ourselves, I'm scared of having children or something. As a man, it's worth sort of thinking, well, exactly what are we talking about? What do we think we're going to lose? Have to look at it really carefully. What do we think? Our party animal? Well, that won't go. I don't know. I make a joke, but like, what do we think we're going to lose? You look at it very, very carefully. That's the point that you're in denial about, what you think you're going to lose, because there's probably a likelihood you won't. In fact, it'll be probably more animated. The point is that a child isn't a child. A child comes out of a loving relationship. A child is the expression of a loving relationship. Of course, it becomes an entity unto itself, but it's the expression of the love of two people. Born in the expression of love to the love of two people, it's a love child. I mean, if you come at from that point of view, from the pure aspect of what it is, where you're looking into beloved's eyes and all you want to do is have it be totally impregnated, then that's love, and her body receives yours in love, then this is just love. This is just purely love. And then the thing that happens with all, your apprehensions, because it's bringing a weird little being into the earth, well, that is love. It's all just love. It's the small ego things that we have after the fact about how we manage houses and when we should buy a car or how we should spend our money that interfere with that love relationship, which is the child. The child is the love relationship, and that's the focus. And rather than sort of, the politics around householding and domestics and things, which is usually what rips people apart, or infidelity. But, and that's a great tragedy, because the expression is a love child, and the other thing is to be fully expressed, nothing hidden. Have enough courage to be fully expressed, to be able to sort of say when something's not working for you, but not to wait until it turns into a tantrum. You develop a intelligent relationship with one another and let it all be love. Make it a commitment of love, of truth and love, but not sort of how truth arises. If we look at the nature of the self is a concoction. Even our desires are concoctions. There's no reality in them. So why would we try to pick out what's sort of pleasurable or exciting or, gets our mojo going. But, is that really who we are? That's just the decorations, and I'm sure, our creativity could bend it in a way where you could include beloved. Anything that's really exciting or exhilarating, you can turn it about, you can do it any way you like. You use your creativity in it. So you should be able to have a really juicy, luscious life in love. Why not? Like have it all, explore, and the child's not going to be an inhibition, because you have loving parents and who want to take up their grandchildren, child or children, so you've got to find yourself in a circumstance of holism, and you just embrace it, and it'll be just this huge celebration. It won't be just your own. All the way through, and there'll be room for everything. Just trust love. I mean, if any of my shortcomings is when I've doubted love or not committed from that point of view. All my failings have always been from that point of view.
Yeah. So for me, I think there are times you know what direction you're going in, but you can deny it. you have this feeling something is too prophetic or too you just know in your heart that's the direction that you're going in. But you can try and deny it. I certainly have been trying to.
Well, like it could take all types of forms. I think I could sort of probably speak of losing my tropical heaven, and I'll just head back to Adelaide.
Yeah.
You know, but the things, oh no, you know, it's like, you know, really, is it such a big deal?
Mm.
You know, like really, you know, for the things that you would say no to love about when love shows up, really, really, you would give up on that opportunity? Does it show up that often? I don't think so.
Yeah.
No, you know, like it might, no, you know, there's a lot of shadow play in this world. But you know, love is very, very particular. You know, I was talking to Ekomananda about this earlier. There's a writing on Sri Aurobindo, and he was qualifying the nature of relationships from sort of saying, well, there's the one, and you know, and perhaps there's the 10. You know, so you come down, you know, we could sleep with maybe 1,000 people. So many people have, it seems, in this time, and you can sort of work it down and say 100 people who could be, you know, really nice acquaintances, and then you've got 10 really good friends, and then there's one. You know, and in this life you can test that, and maybe that ends up being 7 because you've been an idiot, and you've, or life is sort of taking you down the path where, you know, it hasn't sort of worked out. But really, in our heart, if we look at what love is, you always want it to work. You really do. You know, like you really want it. You want it totally. You really want it to really work. So live for that. You know, live for that. Everything else. Look, there's a lot of noise that comes in the mind, and I don't think it has anything to do with the self. I think a lot of what we're made up of is the collective consciousness, not the unconscious. Well, you could call that unconscious. To me, it just looks so obvious. It's collective consciousness. It's so obvious. You know, we don't veer that far away from the cookie cutter. We like to think we do, and there's nothing wrong with that, because we want to be the, you know, like try to purify, you know, our cut edge perhaps. But there's intrinsically, there's sort of nothing wrong with the overall model. It's worked for aeons. What we want to do is optimize that for where that is in this present permutation of what we call existence. You know? And where's the self in that, you know? But the glue between everything that works. We're sort of more like glue than will.
I really like that that analogy that you just gave. That like where are half of your thoughts coming from?
What was that? Say again?
Where are half of your thoughts even coming from? Are they actually yours, or are they?
Look, I think they're not. I think mind is more an antenna. I started exploring the psychic elements of psychicness started coming to me about when I was about 24. I had a nervy corporal experience, and it blew me out. And then I started hearing things and knowing things I should know. And I had enough verification to see that this is true. It's not very articulate, but certainly there is a shared consciousness we're doing together, and it's permeating like it's God's experiment, and it has every level of golden light and every level of iniquity in it, because whatever this God is, it seems to like a lot. Doesn't care what form it takes. It takes every form for what the permutation is, and what we position ourselves everywhere in that through our predilections. But those predilections aren't really necessarily ours, because it's part also maybe the secondary cookie cutter that comes in usually through adolescence when we defy our parents. We've got a more grounded awareness in childhood that we're made aware of, and we tend to forget about it. But if you look really, really carefully at the nature of sahaja, the quality of the self, all the way through the quality of the consciousness, all the way through, I have always been here. And there were conscious events happening at the age of 7 to 12, say, which were profound realizations, incredibly profound realizations. But we fold it off out of a child mind because it comes out of the uniformity of a child mind that sees it so holistically, it doesn't even question how fabulous that is, because we've still got our feet in wonderment in childhood. We're still in wonderment. Whereas we lose our wonderment, we're terrified in teenage life of losing our wonderment, because we know we're going to have to turn into our parents. And we've already made a conclusion that our parents are dull and dry. And that happens out of adolescence. But that's just also part of the collective's way of transforming itself. That's also part of the God consciousness, which is transforming itself too. It uses us. You see this? Like, even it doesn't care. You know, we've come out the end anyway. We're not dying. We're not going, but we're going to have all these experiences because that's part of what this world is about. You know, I'm talking metaphorically, but just as a way of trying to look at it, like it's incredible, like what's actually happening. And unfortunately, we're not too robust to sort of get into all this, because we could get ourselves into more trouble. We manage our circumstance, and our limitations are actually our friend. We're always sort of going the other way and sort of saying, well, my immensity is fabulous. No, it keeps us sort of closer to the cog, our limitations. It has us be more conservative around what we actually are being as a human. Because, this I am thing, I am is, amness comes out of, I think for us, it comes out of the Old English word beyond, which is like becoming. It's an Old English word, ties into the old Germanic words. So the word is I become. So this is what it is to be sort of human, is to be moving through this form. Our inversion on meditation is to bring ourselves back to the I. What is everyone doing? Bring themselves back to the I to come to peace. Because when they go out into the preamble of beingness, they get all sort of, we get all jungled up that we don't, no, go ahead, bring it back, come on. It's like that. And we bring pace. And in here is where beloved is, of yourself and everyone and anything that's close to you. That's really the most important thing, because it's in the love that we be. Nisargadatta's word, self was created out of the self's love to be. You see, so that's in the I amness. But we don't want to go out too far, because we get completely wrecked by it. We spread ourselves too thin. You want to stay close to the I. Yeah, okay, it's an effulgent I, but that's in your love. The eminent one is the loving one. And then when we meet together, you might only have the 10 beloved close ones, or the 40 beloved close ones who you embrace in deep love, and you share that love. So when you touch one another, you are love to one another. When you look in one another's eyes, you are love to one another. That's more. I saw something else that was in the Hebrew word. The word for am is ahim, A-H-M. And that's quite interesting. And what it actually means is it attributes it first to kin and tribe and nationality. And we can go into the negative side of this, but it's interesting because it's actually declaring that what comes first is family and beloved friends and things first. I am in the world. I am in the world, you see. It's interesting. Him, I Alpha, he, Mata. I think that's M for mother. So yeah, anyway, interesting. Interesting. So you see what I'm saying? You want to stay close to the cog, because that's where you're most vibrant. You can be expanded out when the opportunity happens, and be effulgent light, in this world. I mean, in this world, not just to yourself, but it comes from being like this, atomic, the atom, the first person. Yeah, interesting, and that's the nature of love. And it's also, consciousness is really expansive. We can be real know-alls and get into every bit of stuff. And we like to these days. But it's not really so important. We do it sort of more for sport, like we play golf or something. We would never play golf. Yeah.
Something?
Coming
I
back
wanted
in.
to go back to the reverse side of denial. I want to talk about the opposite of denial. Now, Nathan said that he had this innate knowingness that where he's going. Therefore, I don't think that's a denial situation at all. For that, he is highly aware. He's been meditating. He's on the rising path. But in terms of acceptance, what do we need to do? What sort of thing do we need to accepting?
Yeah, really good point. Yeah. Acceptance. Yeah, well, there you have it. I mean, you sum it up beautifully. You don't even really have to say very much, do you, about acceptance? It's here because we're so close. Now we've established we're really close to the noumenal I. Here I am, right on the noumenal I, and the noumenal I is really beautiful in itself. That's where we start from. If we have any shortcomings, when we reach out into the world and we think we can't reach that far, that's when when we feel small or we feel inadequate. And sometimes our energy might be compromised. Our thoughts for what we might be able to achieve, our projection too much into the future. These are all where the breakdown of acceptance comes in. So it's a really, really good point you're making, Ekomananda, and bringing this up. The need, we're wanting to have this inner life. The inner life is first, and it doesn't mean we have to sacrifice the life, and it can't, and its expansion. Like I say, I've done it for 5 years and 19 years. I was talking to a friend today, like this thing of diving into India and sort of doing this. And then I find myself coming out and all of a sudden, like I'm announcing relationship and love and again, and I would never have thought about it. I was happy to keep on going. And because there was no ambition, there's no ambition in it. I'm quite happy to stay in this state of nothingness. But I'm always aware too that there's one aspect that's just intrigued me, and that's the nirvikalpa samadhi. Now, because I've had experience in this and I'm aware of it, there has to be a total holism in the self, a total embracing of the well-being, wholeness, integrity, perhaps is another word, of the self, which has to be total right at its core for it to be able to amplify out in any type of magnanimity. And I'm not meaning this egotistically. I mean this functionally, existentially, experientially. It has to, and we do have this, and we experience in marginal times, say in love relationships. But there's no rhyme or reason to this that can't be so always. But there's conditions too, because we're still dealing with prakriti, the particular. We're talking about matter in the world, matter in the universe, ideas, thoughts, all this type of thing. It's foolish to limit ourselves. It is foolish to limit ourselves. And it's foolish to think that we have to do it alone too, I think.
Let me ask you this question, Sunyata.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, let me ask you this question.
Mm-hmm.
If you knew that you could be completely free from medication, what did you need to accept?
That I could be completely free from medication. Truly, I mean, look, for how it sort of happened is quite intriguing. I just really honestly didn't know how. I just didn't know how to do it. How to me, it's like God is played a very interesting game with me, and I'm totally delighted in coming through this. I can't claim anything of it, you see. Like, I don't see it. There's no ego in it, and I can see that it's already opening up. I'm still going through the difficulty of physicality, as you know, but the light is well lit at the end of the tunnel. And for me as a meditator, that means the light's here now. And that's not to assume that I'm taking a position or that I have an absolute understanding of the quality of that. But there's I can't help but feel an intense amount of gratitude and joy and love, and the amplitude of that is opening up so much more. The mind is shifting, the unconsciousness is revealing itself. I'm seeing level blocks that were there, that were really, really hard to see. And we go forward, and go figure. A dynamic life at this stage is sort of, all of a sudden I'm being promised something which is I couldn't have anticipated. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. So, as far as I'm concerned, that's the only way that I can understand it, because I could see no way through. Nor did I worry about it. I didn't care. I was quite happy to be finished. I had a good life. Good. But anyway, let's see, new beginnings, they call them. Yeah, very interesting.
Beautiful. Thank you for the sharing. I'm going to throw this question to our audience. So if you could maintain what you fear you're going to lose, what would you accept? Contemplate on that. Perhaps if I may ask Sunyata guide us to have a wonderful meditation, we can finish from here.
All right. Can you reword your question once more again, Ekomananda? Just reword it again for me, or for us. Reword the question again.
The question is to the audience. The question is, if you knew that you will not lose what you're afraid of, would you accept the impossible? Would you accept the possibility that you're actually seeing? Would you be willing to open up? In your case, what presented to us is very clear that you did not know. You did not know there would be any method other than what was immediately available. Because if there's immediate available solution, we don't look further, which in your case is medication, and that is justifiable.
I think, can I just say a little bit on this, just quickly? I think one thing that's really opened up for me in this period of time is the even in not knowing, you don't need to know, the element of prayer, of going beyond the self and exercising this, because you can easily be so inclusive in the now level of I understanding that we don't have a conscious desire to want to move into the unconscious and know more. And I think that the only way that we can receive this is to ask for it. So I think prayer has become part of, and this is something that I've not really exercised for maybe 50 years, maybe longer, 50 years, maybe longer. And now I go, well, I will talk to God. I don't know what God is. I can't know what God is, because it has to be greater than I. Something that's greater than I. And have that humility, because it's easy to be in the I am awareness and say, that's it. And it's easy to be stuck because we're happy where we are, mostly healthy and well, and it's not confronted. Well, what would our life be if we embrace that now, and without having to put a denomination on it, without having to give it a name? In fact, not give it a name. Don't give it a form. We don't know that form. That sort of sits behind everything, and say, guide me, and let me see that I can't see. Let me know what I need to know. Help me listen deeper. Help me see further. Help me be stronger. All these terms. And this has come up for me. Looking at it very, very carefully, particularly over the last day, because I found it really difficult. To give over the ego was there, and it wouldn't allow me to accept that, dismiss it. It's a concept. It's not a concept. It's not anything I can possibly even say. I can't determine that in any way. How is this working, honestly? I mean, we're given certain abilities and forms and things that make up our life and give us an opportunity to serve others. But mostly everything stays in the realm of the unknowable. And building a relationship with that, not because of some excitable, exotic circumstance might open up for us, but that we might just be more loving beings. More compassionate. Actually doing something in this world rather than sort of sitting back and going, well, yes, these troubles trouble me. Being a force in this world, about making it a more beautiful place. Anyway, so maybe one on prayer, perhaps, to the unknowable God. To the unknowable God.
In that we accept the unlimited possibilities, and we don't assume. If we are in the process of experiencing conflict, pain, and struggle, ask questions, inquire the self. I encourage you to desire for better self, better life. Ask for support. Ask for
help. Ask for help. So say I'm scared if you have to. Say I need help. Say, have courage to be truthful. Be prepared to be vulnerable. Be prepared to be vulnerable. To be vulnerable is to be a loving being. To open yourself up to the unknown. To be a loving being in this world. To want to be more in this world. That's all. These things are fine. These are really beautiful desires. So should we go into a meditation? Have a little brief meditation?
Yes, please.
Just relax. Well, meditation will be really, really easy tonight. We've gone through a lot of, it's been a good conversation. So, I am love. I am love. I am truth. I am of the nature of God. Settle in. Focus on the I. Focus on the I before am. Go to the center where you see it. Examine the body. Relax. Relax into the eye. Softly centered into the atmasara, the pineal gland, the atmasara. Relax the mind. Relax the mind. I is everything perceivable. I is throughout everything it knows. Relax into that. Relax into that. Aware of the body periphery. Light, center, all light, body light, illuminate light, self, expanding outward, expanding outward. Out into the cosmos, out into the extremities. Breathe. Breathe. Breathe into the heart, the center. Breathe into the heart. Relax the heart. Relax the physical heart. Holding the light, conscious light out, all expansive light out. Sit in the opposite side of the physical heart, where there is no heart, there, the core heart, the heart of nothingness, opposite the physical heart. Put the concentration there, the awareness there. Look carefully. Note the difference in tension in the physical heart and the empty heart. Look carefully. Opposite the physical heart, where there is no heart. Ramana called this the seat of consciousness. Take interest. Balance as if you have two hearts. Breathe between both. Each lung supporting each heart. And the physical heart and the spiritual heart. Balance their form. Let the light cool Let the light cool. Let the light be cool, cool, soft. Soft light. Look throughout the soft light as consciousness. Consciousness is light. The soft light, consciousness. Note its beauty. It's a soft light. Breathe into the two hearts. Both breath equal, both lungs supporting each heart, the physical heart, the spiritual heart. Equally of importance, both important, the physical heart and the spiritual heart, both important. Breathe deeply. Note the soft light. Out into the soft light, everywhere, soft light everywhere. Beautiful soft light everywhere. Expand out. Don't limit yourself. Light doesn't need a limit. Relax. Relax. Breathe into the hearts. Physical heart and the spiritual heart are equal. Imbue the physical heart with soft light and breathe. Imbue the spiritual heart with soft light and breathe. This is a state of consciousness. This is before the world. And this is the place of quietude. This is the place of relaxation. This is the place of nothingness. Rest there. Relax the body. Look at everywhere eye is. Look. expand, relax the mind. Setting the Atmasara, the pineal aspect of the mind. Look. Relax the mind, relax the mind. Looking at the apex between the Atmasara and the physical heart and the spiritual heart on the right side. Truth, love, and light. Truth, love, and light. With those three centers. Focus on the light in those three centers. Balance the two hearts. Let light come into these three centers. Meditation. The atmosphere, relaxed, soft light. In the mind. Soft light in the physical heart. The mind of the heart. And to the right side opposite. Soft light in the conscious heart. The cool heart. The spiritual heart. And balance these three. Use breath to exchange their energy, all three spaces. Each space is a station. Moving between stations. We heal ourselves. Let the light dissolve all tension out of the physical heart. Take the help of the cool spiritual heart of the opposite side. Reflect on until there's one cool, one warm. One cool, one warm. Breathe into them. Breathe out. Breathe in. Both together. Breathe out. Breathe into them both. Breathe out. Directing light up into the Atmasarab. Breathe up into the Atmasarab. Inverted breath up. Like the triangle between the two hearts and the head. Breathe. Breathe out. And slowly open your eyes. As you wish. Could you hear me all right, Ekomananda? Wasn't too quiet? All good. Well, thank you.
We can hear you.
Very good. Thank you, love. Well, that was a really very interesting session. Thank you to everyone tonight for all the sharing, a lot more intimate and intricate sharings. Lovely. And thank you for joining. Do exercise this meditation. It's something that I've used for years and I've been forgetting about it. And I realize that it's exactly what I need to exercise myself for relaxation and just purity and simplicity. The spiritual heart is out of Brahmana's advice that he saw soul as being centered in where the spiritual heart is. And it's a very, very nice meditation and a very, very, very good way of overcoming mind very quickly. So anyway, thank you for tonight.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much, Sunyata, for sharing your wonderful experience and everyone who contributed. I wanted to share one quote from Ananda Mayai that I actually came across today. She said, true enlightenment actually lies on the acceptance and embracing all life experiences, both pleasant and unpleasant.
Oh, how beautiful. Oh, that's perfect. Om Namah Animalaya.
May all sentient beings be free from unnecessary suffering. And see you all in the next episode.